this time.
You don't smoke it, you don't swallow it. All you do is slosh it around your mouth and spit out the brown juices every few seconds. Okay, so it actually is pretty disgusting. But so what? After all, it's called smokeless chewing tobacco. That means you can chew and spit it, not smoke it, so it can't be as bad as inhaling tobacco into your lungs, right? Well, that is the question that we hope we can shed some light on here today. Welcome everyone to today's panel presentation and discussion on chew, spit, or smokeless tobacco. My name is Betty Rudachuk. I'm a Community Wellness Coordinator within Kelsey Trail Health Region. I will be the moderator of today's panel presentation. For the next hour, you will be provided with current and relevant information on smokeless tobacco to make you aware of the facts associated with this product and its use. Following the presentation from our panel of professional guests, you will have an opportunity to ask questions or make respectful comments. Before today's guests are introduced, let's start with some basic information and facts. Smokeless tobacco products have been in existence for thousands of years among native populations in North and South America, as well as Southeast Asia. Over time, these products have gained popularity throughout the world. Smokeless tobacco is consumed without burning the product and can be used orally or nasally. Smokeless tobacco, also known as spit, plug, dip, chaw, rack, spits, grizz, and tasties, comes in two forms: chew and snuff. Chewing tobacco is available in loose leaf, twist, and plug forms, whereas snuff comes in moist, dry, and sachet forms. Oral smokeless tobacco products are placed in the mouth, cheek, or lip and sucked or dipped or chewed. Tobacco pastes or powders are used in a similar manner and placed on the gums or teeth. Fine tobacco powder mixtures are usually inhaled and absorbed in the nasal passages. A new trend has been observed where more and more teens are beginning to use or are switching to chewing smokeless tobacco. There are a number of reasons why chew tobacco is the latest hit among young people. These would include marketing strategies that are quite aggressive, wide and improved availability of smokeless products, the ease with which chewing tobacco can be concealed from parents or authorities, and teens prefer to date peers who do not smoke. One of the key drivers in the rise of chewing tobacco is the belief that there are minimal risks associated with using smokeless tobacco products. This in turn has increased smokeless tobacco approval amongst teen peers. This perception is flawed and completely misleading. In fact, chewing tobacco is devastatingly harmful. Today you will be given the facts, as well as the opportunity to ask this panel of experts questions that you might have. These people will not lie to you, and their intention is not to come here and scare you, although the facts are scary. They will give you the important information, and they will share experiences from their points of reference within the healthcare service delivery. This is your opportunity to get the facts so that you can make informed choices in your own life. I would like to introduce our panel of guests. To my immediate right is a woman who is filling in for the public health inspectors and the law enforcement officers. Unfortunately, they were not able to be here. Her name, many of you know, is Mallory Federico, and she is the Community Wellness Coordinator here. Today, she is just the voice of the report or the information that was sent from our law enforcement officer, public health inspector. The role of public health inspectors and tobacco enforcement officers is to promote healthy communities through inspection and enforcement of the provincial regulations and standards. Public health inspectors are designated as tobacco enforcement officers to enforce the Smoke 3 public places provisions of the Tobacco Control Act, which are intended to reduce the risks of secondhand smoke exposure in public places and ultimately promote healthy environments. Our second guest is Celia Schweiner. Celia is a registered dental therapist and a lifelong learner and educator. She is pleased to be here today to bring you some important information and to share her experience with tobacco use. Lynn Quintain is the Kelsey Trail Health Region Chronic Disease Health Educator. Lynn has a degree in sociology and is also a certified dental assistant. She is part of the Kelsey Trail Health Region Tobacco Working Group that has helped to implement the no tobacco policy within our health region. In her current role as chronic disease health educator, she has seen many people who have died from using tobacco products and many that are now suffering from debilitating respiratory diseases. As a dental assistant for 14 years, she has also seen the side effects of using chew tobacco and smoking in the mouth. Lynn is passionate about this subject and this social issue, especially as it affects our most precious human resource, you, our youth. Today, Lynn's presentation will focus on the deceptive marketing strategies that are enticing young people to begin using smokeless tobacco. Audrey Parker next. Giveaway. Audrey is our KTHR Addictions Counselor. Audrey acquired a Bachelor of Health Science degree within the Addictions Counseling Program through the University of Lethbridge in 2006. Audrey's education, as well as her personal experience, allow her to provide services for a wide range of addictive behaviors and intervention strategies involving substance abuse, including tobacco, problem gambling, and sexual or eating disorders. She joined, since joining the mental health and addictions team within Kelsey Trail Health Region, she has provided services in the communities of Hudson Bay, Porcupine Plain, Kelvington, and Tisdale. Tobacco cessation is very important to the health of our entire community, and helping people to quit abusing tobacco products is something Audrey is passionate about. Currently, Audrey is the chairperson for our Tobacco Reduction Working Group. She is excited about the many exciting action plans currently coming out of the working group, including this tour. Leah Boxall is a nurse practitioner here in Tisdale. She has been a nurse practitioner for 6 years. She works with many patients with high blood pressure and heart disease. A lot of her work is aimed at trying to prevent illness and keep people as healthy as possible. And our last guest is Kyle, and he will introduce himself a little later. We will now begin our presentation.
Hello. So as Betty mentioned, many of you know me as Mallory Federico. Here at TMS, I work as a community wellness coordinator, but today I'm just sitting in for the public health inspectors. So to begin, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background information. Using a variety of professional and technical skills, public health inspectors promote healthy communities through inspections and enforcement of federal and provincial regulations, as well as standards and guidelines. Public health inspectors are designated tobacco enforcement officers as per Section 16 of the Tobacco Control Act. The Tobacco Control Act is an act to control the sale and use of tobacco and tobacco-related products. As of August 15, 2010, the use of tobacco is prohibited in schools and on school grounds. Section 11(2) of the Tobacco Control Act states that no person shall smoke, use, or consume tobacco or hold lighted tobacco in an enclosed public place, that is in a school or an independent school, or on the grounds surrounding a school or an independent school. Keep in mind that in the Tobacco Control Act, tobacco is defined as any form in which it is used or consumed and includes snuff and raw leaf tobacco. Therefore, the Act applies to cigarettes, cigars, chew, etc. This applies to everyone who enters onto the school property, including teachers, staff, parents, students, and visitors. It applies to all areas of the school grounds, including athletic fields, greens, and parking lots. This legislation applies 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Has everybody seen the no smoking signs around the school here? So Section 13 of the Tobacco Control Act mandates that this signage is in place. More importantly, Section 19 states that no person shall remove, cover up, mutilate, deface, or alter any sign required pursuant to this act or the regulations to be displayed or posted. So, to summarize all that, it is illegal to smoke or chew tobacco on school property, and it is illegal to remove and or alter the no smoking signage. So the enforcement procedures. Schools and school divisions are lead implementers of the ban of tobacco on school grounds. The initial steps include education and awareness of the legislation that applies. So that's why this information is being provided to you today. Enforcement procedures are as follows. If it's a first offense, it's a verbal warning. The law is explained and why it exists. On the second offense, the student is informed again of non-compliance with the legislation and reminded of why it exists. A written letter is sent to the parents informing them of the offense and the potential for a ticket should compliance not be met. On the third offense, the school should contact the tobacco enforcement officer and provide him or her with all of the details. The tobacco enforcement officer will use his or her discretion as to whether a ticket will be issued. If a ticket is issued, the fine is $150 or the offender may appear in court. So to summarize all that, the public health inspectors cover a wide range of duties and responsibilities. Tobacco reduction and enforcement is one way to protect the health of the people and promote and support healthy environments. You have been provided with the legislation which applies to the school which you attend. Please respect the laws which are in place and respect your fellow classmates, teachers, school staff, and tobacco enforcement officers by complying with the Tobacco Control Act.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Heavy morning to be doing this stuff, isn't it? And me falling asleep during my presentation. Smokeless tobacco is what we're dealing with today. And as you've heard already in several different ways, it doesn't sound too bad, does it? No. It doesn't sound too bad at all. Smokeless tobacco. I mean, what would be so wrong with it? However, when we present it, we use this emblem on the front, skull and crossbones, which gives you a very good idea that this is a dangerous substance. What does it have in it? What's it made of? Let's have a look. A mixture of tobacco, sweeteners, salts, and it contains hundreds of chemicals that are poisonous to our body. It has nicotine. It's a habit-forming substance, which you probably have heard about already. Found in tobacco juice and cigarettes. Carcinogens, those are chemicals that cause cancers. The nitrosamines, which are especially harmful, 19 at least have been identified in tobacco. It has large percentages of sweeteners and salt because in its raw form it doesn't taste very good. And because of the nature of tobacco leaves, it's very abrasive, so it can do a lot of damage in the mouth. Wearing down teeth and gums, etc. And of course, hundreds of other chemicals that may delay wound healing, and it makes it really difficult to heal if you have a tooth or gum disease or something like that. Makes it really difficult. So it just gives you a little bit of an idea. And some people think because you put it in your mouth, you use it in your mouth, that it's not going to be harmful. No, why would it be? I mean, you can't see it, right? And it's generally used in the cheek or put between the lip and the front teeth. And sometimes other places in the mouth. I've seen evidence of it really being put up on the palate as well and sucked wet that way. Then nobody can see it, right? You can always tell if somebody's using it down here because usually they have a lump here, right? And you see that a lot on sometimes ball games, players, etc. But of course you can't really see it. So how could it be so bad? But having just talked about all the cancer-causing agents and the chemicals that are in it, when you're using it in your mouth, it's mixing with saliva, right? So even if you spit out the juice, there's still going to be a certain amount that's in your mouth, that's left in your mouth, and you're going to be swallowing that. And every time you're having some and you're left in your mouth and you're swallowing it, you're aware that you're introducing all those chemicals into your body. When it's put in the mouth, on the soft tissue inside the mouth, it's absorbed very, very quickly because of the nature of the skin inside the mouth. It's soft. It's not like our hard skin on the outside. It's very, very soft and porous, so it's absorbed immediately. So the minute that product is put on the tissue, it has a reaction. It actually starts to burn. And if it's repeatedly put in that place, it can actually damage the soft tissue. And often you will find an area that we call leukoplakia, which is the start of oral cancer. And it's a kind of interesting thing because it doesn't look too bad, right? This is somebody who's used chewing tobacco, and it's down on the inside of their cheek, and it's pouched down in there. Nobody can really see it, but every time it's been put in the mouth, it's caused irritation or burning on the tissues, and gradually the tissues get harder and harder and harder because they have to resist that burning. And so it's something called leukoplakia, and you can see it here on the palate, sort of white-looking area. Tissues get burned all the time, they turn white down in here, and sometimes you can even notice it. You can notice it with some disc down on the inside of the lip and against the gums. And it can, if it's used more and more, it can actually cause removal of the bone because it's so abrasive and so damaging. And this is way back in the mouth, in the molar area, you know, down inside the cheek area there. And can you see anything that looks odd on the bottom here? Can anybody tell me what? What color is it? Black. Yeah, because actually the tobacco has destroyed not only the pink gums, but the bone underneath it, and now the roots of the tooth are actually showing underneath. This is from prolonged use. But it's so it's a very, very, very damaging thing. And then of course we look at things like staining, because it's tobacco and it's usually dark. You can actually stain the teeth like this. And when that staining happens, it doesn't disappear. This is a tooth. And what is this? It's a tongue. And it's actually, the name of this condition is called black hairy tongue, because of the tobacco containing salts and sugars. When you eat more sugar, you make more plaque in your mouth. You don't know that, but you do. And if you're not removing the plaque, and you keep using the product, you get a lot of growth on your tongue of plaque. If you're not brushing your tongue, it just builds up and it builds up. And all the colors from the juices stain the tongue. And that's what it looks like, black hairy tongue, yes?
It looks kind of like a blood stain on a rug.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't it look nasty? How can you imagine how that would taste in your mouth? When we ever taste that? States a few years ago called Ruin Von Barons, and there's information in your school about him who started using chewing tobacco when he was 12. By the time he was 17, he had a serious amount of cancers. And this leukoplakia that we talked about earlier on is actually a precursor. It's the first stage of cancer. So if you find that if you're using this product and you know somebody who is, and you're getting this white hardened area in the mouth, then you're seeing somebody right away. This is up on the palate, up here, where it's been sucked on, and the tissue's very hard. And then we look at these funny little pictures here. They look very, very, well, they look very exciting, do they really? But if you look, and you can probably see over there, can you see something on this picture? Can you see something on the tongue? Yeah. Can you see something here? That kind of looks like canker sores, right? Okay. And down here, it kind of looks like a canker sore as well. This is at the very back of the mouth, when you open your mouth and on the very back part there. Well, all of these things are oral cancers. And they're all from people who have used, guess what? Tobacco. And sometimes it's not just from smokers, it's from using cigarettes as well. And some people actually use both things. If they're not chewing, they can't chew, then they smoke, or whatever. And these are all fatal cancers. When we have something like this in our tongue, by the time we see that hole there in the tongue, even though you can't feel it, it doesn't hurt. You have that sore that appears, you think, it'll go away. Even when you see that, generally the cancer is very advanced by then. Very advanced. And it can require extensive surgery to remove not only part of the tongue, sometimes it's spread to the jaw, and it can leave quite a mutilation. And the gentleman, Ruin Von Barons, who was here, had 34 surgeries, I believe, in his lifetime to restore his face and his neck to what it, not be close to what it had been originally. So that's how it affected him. In those few short years, he had gone from being a user of dip to having full-scale cancer. And so we can't tell the future. We don't know what's going to happen, do we? We make plans, we hope things are going to work out. We don't know at this point even what we want to do when we leave school. But one of the things that we can do is to look after ourselves and be informed and know what the dangers are. Because this isn't something that will happen to somebody else. You can be guaranteed that if you use this product, you start using tobacco in any of its forms, it will harm you because it doesn't have anything in it that is actually beneficial to you or to your health in any size, shape, or form. It will not benefit you in the least. If it's not benefiting you, something we shouldn't be doing. So I just wanted to let you know that those are some of the things that we can do. I want to show you a couple. There's a picture here, which is another sort of poster about which says it's deadly, it's not. And this is the cancer that we talked about just now. It doesn't look too bad, does it? It just looks sort of whitish there, and then this little sore here. It doesn't look like anything much at all. But those are the warning signs. And if you put this in your mouth, you are going to have, it's going to irritate because that's the nature of it, irritate. And it comes in different forms. I have some packages here. Here we have skull bandits. The people who manufacture this stuff want to get you hooked in there. This is very neat and tidy. It comes in a little package and you just put it down in there and you won't really see it right. However, it contains cancer-causing agents, sugars, salts, abrasives, everything. Then we can go on to, this has the most, I believe, nitrosamines and cancer-causing agents in it, and nicotine. Do you know that in one dip, one little pinch of this is put in between the lip and the teeth there, has the equivalent of 4 to 6 cigarettes when it's held in the mouth for half an hour. So using one dip of this, you're getting that same nicotine and chemicals as smoking 4 to 6 cigarettes. pretty amazing, isn't it? You could even probably smoke 4 or 6 cigarettes in half an hour if you tried, but this is powerful, powerful poison.
It's amazing that that would.
It's amazing. Look at this. You know how much it costs? $12. I don't know how much it costs. $25? $25. There's enough nicotine in this little box to give you a lethal dose. You know what lethal means? It can kill you. So it's a very powerful thing, isn't it? Look at that little tiny container here that could potentially, and something like it was used in the, it's always used in the wrong way, but it was used recklessly. So just bear those things in mind. We've come to the end of our time now, but we'll have an opportunity to do some questions later. I just want to quickly show you, this is the pouch of Red Man, which is the chewing raw tobacco leaves. And it's another way to come. So we're done with my time. Thank you for being so attentive. We'll talk to you later on.
So how do I sell this? How do I sell that? Because essentially, that's what's going to happen. If you do this for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 5 years, who knows? But this will kill you. So how do I sell this to you? How would you buy this? Why would you buy this? I'll get to that after. What tobacco companies do is they gear their products towards youth, teens, young adults. And the reason that they need to do that is because it's killing off their older clients, right? Over 5 million people die a year from tobacco-related products and tobacco-related diseases. So tobacco companies need to spend billions of dollars to try to entice you to try their product. Now they do that by making it a pretty package, right? It's pretty, it's red, it comes in probably 50 different colors. They make it look like it's a pretty little thing. In a girl's purse or bag, this would blend in with makeup, right? You can get some makeup, your lip gloss. They make things in long cylinder tubes to disguise it from parents, from adults, to make it blend into what you guys buy. So it looks like everyday things, right? It's just something you would have in your bag or in your backpack. They make it also to look like cell phones. They have certain covers and things like that. They disguise it to look like a cell phone. We also make it flavored as well. So that comes in cherry, it comes in, I don't know, all the different flavors, but there's a list of about 25 different flavors. There's citrus, there's cherry, there's, you name it, raspberry, strawberry, watermelon, whatever your flavor is, you can get it in that flavor. So they have to make these types of things so that it entices you. You try it once or twice, you're hooked. Yay, good for them. Now they've got you hooked. They're going to take your money, the company's going to grow, and what's going to happen again? Exactly. Or and maybe you won't die from it right away, but as Celia mentioned, there's lots of things that can go on health-wise, health risks that can have serious health complications for you. So now the tobacco companies have had some restrictions. In Canada, they're no longer allowed to advertise in magazines and on television. But that doesn't mean that they can't still advertise. They find other ways to get to you guys. Who's on Facebook? Absolutely. Most of you probably have a Facebook page. Tobacco companies, it's not regulated. They can be on Facebook. They have actually lots of websites that you can sign up for, that if you are a member of their website, you get emails with coupons, you get all kinds of notifications of events that are coming up. And if you're a member, you can get a special code or a password to get freebies. They also have contests. For if you enter your contest, if you enter the code, product code, you could win maybe an iPod or an iPad, or maybe an Xbox, things like that. So they're trying to find ways to get to you guys. And that's the problem, is because people our age, we don't do it. We know the facts. And if we have done it, we know that it's deadly. So we do the best we can to try not to use that product. But that's why they have to get to you guys, right? A lot of you guys are probably, how many of you guys play hockey? Football? Baseball? Great. So years and years ago, this is when chew tobacco was given to sports athletes because they couldn't smoke cigarettes playing hockey or football or baseball, but they could put chew in and nobody would know. Well, unless you had everybody like a stick, no. But that was okay because everybody was doing it. Well, now in the NHL, chew tobacco and cigarettes, hockey players are not allowed to do it when they're affiliated with the hockey team in any way, shape, or form. They cannot do it at the rink, they cannot do it at any public speaking events, they cannot be affiliated with the hockey team as being chew or smoking tobacco, cigarettes. So that's been banned. So they can only do it on their own time when they're at home. That's if they do it, right? Because if you do it, you're not enhancing your ability to be a good player. Because in the long term, you're going to be sick. You're going to have health complications. Do they want a hockey player, a football player, a baseball player that's sick all the time and having health complications? No, they want a top athlete. Baseball. The minor leagues, it is completely banned from. Unfortunately, the major leagues, it is still allowed. And they are working on laws right now to restrict that, to get it out of there. So again, you need to think about if you are a chew tobacco, if you're chewing tobacco, if you're an athlete, you're not going to be able to do it at school. You're not going to be able to do it at the rink. If you end up playing for somebody other than just a high school team, you have to think about the long term of that too. Okay? So these are all ways that the tobacco company is trying to entice you to use their product. And we just want you guys to be smart about it, right? Know the facts. Know how they're trying to get you in. They're trying to give you freebies. They're trying to give you as much as they can because they know once you try you will be hooked and that you're signing your death wish, essentially. So be smart about it. Be aware of it. If you see it in the store, if you're going to get a drink or a chocolate bar or something like that, it's right there, right? You see it. It looks like an everyday thing, but know the risks. Know that it's not healthy for you. Okay? Because you know what? You guys are our future. If we don't have you guys, what do we have? Right? So be safe, be smart, make good choices. Because we want to see you guys. We want to see you grow. We want to see you excel. We want to see you succeed. Okay?
Tobacco so far, and you probably picked up on the fact that tobacco is addictive. Tobacco addiction is very common, and many people believe that chew or snuff is safer than smoking, but as you've already heard, it's very untrue. Snuff and chewing tobacco contain the addictive drug nicotine. It's readily absorbed into our bloodstream when a tobacco product is chewed or inhaled or smoked. Nicotine actually reaches the pleasure center of the brain faster than cocaine. Upon entering the bloodstream, nicotine immediately stimulates the adrenal glands, which releases the hormone adrenaline. This hormone stimulates the central nervous system, increases your blood pressure, your respiration, and your heart rate. Glucose is released into the blood while nicotine suppresses insulin output, which means tobacco users have chronically elevated blood sugar levels. Like cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, nicotine increases levels of the neurotransmitter dopamine. And that is a brain chemical that helps you to feel good. This affects the brain pathways that control our reward and our pleasure. For many tobacco users, long-term brain changes induced by continued nicotine exposure result in addiction. Addiction is a condition of compulsive drug seeking and use, even in the face of negative consequences, but not cancer. A number of studies indicate that adolescents are especially vulnerable to the effects of nicotine and may be more likely than adults to develop an addiction to tobacco. Our brains are not fully developed until we're 21 years old. Consequently, the brain pathway from tobacco use at an early age is much more pronounced when we use an addictive substance beginning at an early age. Chewing tobacco is also called spit, chew, plugs, twists, snuff, smokeless, dips. As already talked about, it's sold as leaf tobacco and put between the cheek and the gum. Chewing tobacco contains the nicotine, as already talked about. There's also just a little pinch of fiberglass, which breaks down. Yeah, look at your face. Breaks down the tissue so that it's absorbed more readily. Chewing tobacco, oh yeah, okay, I got that. Told you that already. 8 to 10 dips in a day is the same as smoking 30 to 40 cigarettes. Holding the average dip in your mouth for 30 minutes is like smoking 4 cigarettes. That was already said. What can chewing tobacco do to me? It can make you addicted and lead to withdrawal symptoms when you quit. Nicotine narrows your blood vessels, slowing your reaction time and causing dizziness. So how do I quit? Well, there is help. Know your triggers. Know when you really want to use tobacco. Like right after a meal, when you're angry, bored, stressed about a test coming up, waiting in line, watching TV, meeting new people. There's a lot of triggers. The list is endless. So we can help break the cycle by changing your using routine, changing when you use tobacco, and also keeping your stash in a different place. Don't have it so readily available all the time. Dealing with cravings means changing your focus. Exercise is a great deal to do with cravings. It's very helpful. Go for a walk or a run, take up a sport, and don't take your tobacco with you. Prepare yourself for withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal from chewed tobacco is the same as smoking tobacco. It can include agitation, nightmares, extreme cravings, difficulty paying attention, and increased appetite. There are effective treatments for tobacco addiction, including behavioral treatments, like assisting tobacco users to change their behavior patterns, to make different choices. This includes self-help groups or self-help materials. We've got some reading materials, there's websites, there's lots of help. Individual counseling is another way. Treatment can help tobacco users manage their symptoms and improve the likelihood of successfully quitting. Interventions teach individuals to recognize high-risk situations and develop coping strategies to deal with them. Nicotine replacement therapy, such as nicotine gum and a patch, is also very helpful. There are also medications that are helpful with tobacco cessation. Current use of smokeless tobacco among grades 10 to 12 has actually decreased in recent years because of prevention, education, and treatment health professionals like us are implementing in all areas. The decrease in smokeless tobacco is not enough until there is no tobacco use anymore. Before you pick up an addictive substance, especially something as tempting as candy-flavored tobacco, think again. Remember, the brain pathway is developed very quickly. The pleasure center of our brain accepts this drug readily, and a person can pick up an addiction very quickly. So what weighs as much as 366 round bales? Any idea? Have you ever seen those big round bales? Imagine 366 of them. the amount of spit tobacco sold on the prairies in 2011. 202 tons of spit tobacco. We need to stop using this addictive substance. And I'm here today reaching out to you, hopefully helping you make the decision to not pick up this addictive drug the first time. Thanks.
All right, you guys need to get up and stretch? Okay, why don't you do that? Don't hit your neighbor.
So it hurt, and I couldn't do anything about it. All I did was just lie in my bed.
You gonna lead us? Some exercises? Okay, is that good for everyone? All right. No one got any of their teeth knocked out? If you did, talk to Selena there, okay? She'll help you. All right. So, some of the things that I'm going to say today have already been said, but there will be a quiz at the end of my presentation, okay? So I need you to really pay attention. My name's Leah, and I'm a nurse practitioner in Tisdale. Now, this is what I found out when I started doing some research for today's topic, is that there are about 1 million names for this stuff that we call smokeless tobacco. And this is what I found out. Chewing tobacco, tobacco lozenges, spit tobacco, chew, chaw, plug, snuff, snooze. That's Swedish for snuff. Dip. Basically, they're all smokeless, and you either chew it, suck it, or sniff it. So these are some of the myths that are out there in the public. And probably you've already heard them. I think Rita talked about them at the beginning. Basically, here's one of them. Smokeless tobacco is a safer option than smoking tobacco, than cigarettes or cigars. Another myth, but I'm not inhaling the stuff, so it's got to be better for me than smoking. And the third one might be, at least I'm not smoking it, so I'm not going to get lung cancer. So we've already heard about some of the things that smokeless tobacco can do to you. So I think you would all agree, you agree with me that smokeless does not mean harmless? Yeah? Okay. That it is not a better option? And that there is no such thing as a safe tobacco product? You have to remember, what did Lynn just say to you? These companies are trying to suck you in because you have another 70, 80 years of life left. They want to suck you in now and keep you buying their product so that they can make more money off of you. Okay? And the only thing that this does for you is it goes to that pleasure center in your brain that's deep in your brainstem and gives you something called dopamine. There is no other positive thing that this chemical does for you. So here's some of the issues, the way I see it, with smokeless tobacco, or dip, chaw, chew, snuff, or snooze. First of all tobacco products cause addiction. All of them. Every one of them. They all have nicotine in them. And some sources say that smokeless tobacco has more nicotine in it than cigarettes. Now, the nicotine is absorbed through the lining of your mouth, in your cheek, or down in here by your lip. It goes straight to those parts of the brain, though, where it acts and gives you that pleasure, that increased heart rate, that increased blood pressure, that dopamine. Some of it also gets swallowed. Even though it's absorbed more slowly than from cigarettes, 3 to 4 times more of it is absorbed than from cigarettes. And it stays in your bloodstream longer. So therefore, that nicotine is causing more and more of that feeling that you need to have more of it. So that nicotine is causing that dependence that already talked about. Some sources even say that nicotine is more addictive than crack cocaine. That if you use tobacco once, you're more addicted and you have more chance of using it again than if you use crack cocaine for the very first time. The second issue with tobacco and any tobacco product, but we're talking about smokeless tobacco here today, is that it can cause cavities in your teeth because there's lots of sugar in it. Remember what Lynn said? They put lots of flavors in it, they put sugar in it, there's all the abrasives in it. It's flavored, so it makes you buy it makes you try it, and by then the nicotine is already working on you, so you're going to keep on buying it because now you need it. You don't just want it, you don't want to just try it, you actually need it. And now it's hard to stop. That's exactly what the companies want to happen to you. The third thing is smokeless tobacco can cause gum disease, bleeding gums, and bad breath. Who wants any of that? And you saw lots of pictures there already this morning. The fourth thing is, smokeless tobacco has at least 28 chemicals in it that can cause cancer. These are called carcinogens. And they're tobacco-specific ones called nitrosamines. It can cause oral cancer. That means cancer of your cheek, your tongue, your gums, your throat. It can cause esophageal cancer. That's your swallowing tube. It can cause cancer of your stomach, your pancreas, your kidneys, and your bladder. Many times the treatment for these types of cancers includes operations to remove the organ that has the cancer. So think about that. If you have cancer of your tongue and you have to have surgery to remove your tongue, think about what happens there. What happens if you have cancer of your swallowing tube or your esophagus? Think about that. Maybe you even have to have chemotherapy or radiation to treat those cancers. Maybe you have to have 54 surgeries by the time you're 17 or after the age of 17. Think about how life would change for you if you were a smokeless tobacco user from the age of 12 to 17 and you all of a sudden had cancer. Your life would be at risk, but in order to save your life, you'd have to have surgery. So your appearance might change. You might have scars, you might have part of your jaw removed. You might not be able to talk the same. You might not be able to taste food ever again. You might not be able to chew food anymore. You might not be able to even have a whole esophagus so that the food can go from your mouth down into your stomach. So you may have to change what kinds of foods you eat. You may not be able to eat any food ever again. You may have to have tube feeding because that's the only way you can get nutrition into your stomach in order to live for the rest of your life. If you have bladder cancer, that might mean that your bladder has to be removed and you have a little pouch that you wear outside of your body that collects the urine. And you have to empty that daily and nightly for the rest of your life. You would do these things because these are the things that are needed for you to save your life. And you would do these things, you would have chemotherapy, you would have radiation, you would have surgeries if you needed it. But they're going to have implications for the rest of your life. The fifth thing is, smokeless tobacco can cause heart disease. The heart rate rises, the blood pressure rises, and over more time of using the tobacco, your chance of having a heart attack or stroke increases. Diseases of the blood vessels and of the brain and heart are the #1 killer in North America. Did you know that your generation right now is the first generation ever in the history of the world that we know of whose life expectancy is less than your parents. Ever in the whole world, over all time. You are expected to live fewer years than your parents' generation. That's because of things like smokeless tobacco, and tobacco use is one of them, but it's also about things like nutrition, lack of exercise, and other things like that. So back to those 3 statements that I said at the beginning, those myth busters. Have we busted all those myths? Have we? Let's go back to them. Let's just review them. This is the quiz time. Is inhaling all that stuff and using smokeless tobacco, which one is worse? Are they both bad? Yeah. At least I'm not smoking it and getting lung cancer. Is that true? Okay, I'm not getting lung cancer, but I'm getting a whole bunch of other cancers that might be, lots of other organs. And using this smokeless tobacco is better for me than using cigarettes. Is that true? Okay. I read a study just released in May of 2013, just a couple of weeks ago. It was a study done in the States about teenagers. And it looked at smokeless tobacco use from the year 2000 to the year 2011. And the scary thing is that there had been no change at all in the percentage of teens using smokeless tobacco in those 11 years. So the companies are doing a really good job of convincing you guys that you need to use it. What we need to do is do a better job of telling you the information so you can make good decisions. So I hope that today's forum and information like this will help you to make a good decision for you for the rest of your life. So let me end by saying this. Quit the debt, or better yet, don't ever start.
Hey, you guys can't laugh at me. I spilled my coffee on my shirt. So, I have a little bit of coffee right here, so that's going to stare at my, not here, not right here, okay? So, as Betty said, my name is Kyle Storer. Actually, usually I'm involved in these programs a little bit different because I am an addictions counselor in Kelsey Trail Health Region. I've been in the area for about 10 years now, but they brought me in today as a former chewer. I tell you what, I really enjoy chewing tobacco. And why do I say that? Well, I don't know. Because it's funny that these were brought out here, these school bans, because this is exactly what I started on. I was about 14 years old. I grew up in Prince Albert. Don't hold that against me, okay? Even though I grew up in Prince Albert. So I started on these things. And I don't know why I started. Honestly, I think about it all the time. What made me start? I don't know, I was a pretty active kid. I played a lot of sports, I did a lot of things. Still do a lot of things. Not as much as I like to now, but that's just that's what happens when you have kids. Not that it's a bad thing that I have kids. So I chewed those things like very briefly. I had in a sock drawer all the time. My mom found it one time and gave me heck. And I was just like, well, what's it? My grandfather, who lived to be 91, and I'm not condoning this by any means, he was the guy that smoked and chewed. He was a hard-working man and did a lot. I think, he's very fortunate to live as long as he did. But he chewed Copenhagen stuff. And when I was probably around your guys' age, maybe a little bit younger, one day I grabbed this can of stuff, and I didn't know what it was. I popped off the lid, and I grabbed a handful and ate it. And I must have puked for about 4 hours. My mom was absolutely livid, upset with my grandfather. He laughed and said, well, maybe we'll never do that. So I always kind of laugh about that because, unfortunately, the awful taste didn't deter. And I continued, and I started using Vans and moved on to Copenhagen. And did it very, very, very quickly. And transitioned to this. And enjoyed the taste of it, honestly. And honestly, the taste of it is awful. But once it's kind of one of those things when you acquire it, you really like it. But, so yeah, I moved through, I started getting really active in some sports in my life. And I'm fortunate enough to carry on in athletics and play football at a quite high level. I ended up, was fortunate enough to get paid to play in the United States. I played in Kansas, and not with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I played in the arena football. So that's kind of a guy's dream. You want to be able to play sport and get paid for it, and continue to dip Copenhagen or chew Copenhagen, or we have thousands of different names for it today, and I still use them. Not that sort of the names when I talk to people that use it and go on from there. So we go forward. I finish up my university degree. Start thinking about what I'm going to do for work. And, I'm kind of one of those guys that's always been a helper, always been a coach now, moving forward. So so I started working with youth, and then I moved into the addictions field. And I'm thinking, geez, was this right that I sit here and preach not to do this, but I can't stop myself. So my first child was born. It'll be 4 years and 2 days. And then born 29th of May. He'll be 4 years old in a couple days. And so he's born. He's running around the house one day, and lo and behold, he wants at Dad's can. And I think, oh my God, I don't eat that. So I grab it from him, and so we're outside, just sitting outside. My wife, who I love her to death, and is very severe when she gets angry. Looks at me and uses a swear word. What is your son doing? What are you doing? I said, I don't know. What's the problem? I'm not hurting anybody else. This is me at 30. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but in my 30s, saying that, it's not a big deal that my child's seeing me do this. So, I started doing this and I started thinking, okay, I started looking out for my health a little bit better. What are some things to do? So I started running. I did not have the build to run. Okay, I was big. When I was playing football, I was about 320 pounds. Okay, so I was a big guy. Decided to start running. Always weight train, always do that type of thing. I live a pretty healthy lifestyle in general. I like chips too sometimes. Chips and dip, that kind of thing. I don't put it this way. I don't live a static lifestyle. I'm always moving, because you can tell as I'm walking up here. I just don't like sitting around. That's just my lifestyle. So I think, what are some changes that I can make? Okay, I'm going to quit chewing tobacco. My wife, bless her soul, started laughing at me. She goes, when we lived in Spain, you didn't chew for a year, and you were the grumpiest guy I knew. Because when we lived there, you can't buy it in Spain. So I'd stopped for a brief amount of time. Always kind of always saying, yeah, I'm going to stop. And she was, okay, well, good for you. So I said, okay, I'm a big addictions counselor. I know how to snap that and eat this, no problem. So, okay, I dump it out. First night, breaking down football film, and quite commonly when I do that, I would always chew Copenhagen, chew lots of Copenhagen. And so, okay, I'm going to buy this herbal stuff, Smoky Mountain. And so I'm chewing on this, and I'm like, God, this stuff's awful. And it's got so much salt and sugar in it, I don't know. And the same thing with Copenhagen, it has just as much sugar and salt. But so finally, I went, kind of relapsed, relapse. By relapse, what happens is I chew again. Put it in perspective, when I was chewing tobacco, when I first started, you could buy a can of tobacco for $3.75, $3.25, same size as that. When I quit, it was about $21, $20, So, regardless of, that, of course, that little bit was bring to it too. So, I quit, relapsed, whatever, during football season. my child's downstairs with me, grabs the spitball and spills it on the floor. And I get a supreme tongue lashing from my wife again. And okay, this is it. You know, it's time for me to man up, put what I know into play and stuff. Okay, because this is getting ridiculous. So, still to this day, it's been about not as long as it should be. Probably about a year that I haven't chewed tobacco. I still chew Smoky Mountain, which is a herbal leaf chew that you can buy at any grocery store or co-op for $3.99 or $5.99 or something like that. I still do that because it's a habit that I formed. Okay. Being a very active guy when I'm golfing, if I didn't use that herbal stuff, I would be chewing Copenhagen. When I coach athletics, and again, I coach our provincial team for football, I would use Copenhagen. Okay, so I'm trying to use some of the things that I know now and put it in place. People are saying to me, you know, good for you, and I'm just like any addict, you know, I can call it that, because, you know, I crave this stuff. You know, even today when everybody's talking about it, I was like, yeah, you know, it's so easy just to go to the 7-Eleven, pick a can and just eat it, right? Because at the time, I could eat it, I could swallow it, nobody know. But then I could put it back here. Celia and Lynn have worked in the dental area. I could put it up here, I could put it up here, I could put it up on top, bottom. I've had that white lip, I've had it all. My dentist, I've done all the tests and stuff. Unfortunately, nothing physically is wrong, but mentally I struggle with it. So, my message to you guys is that, hey, I'm just an average guy. You know, I've been pretty lucky in a lot of things that I've done. I want you guys to not be the average person or above average person that has to fall into the trap of using tobacco. Because we see it, right? Every day we see it. I always talk about sports being so much because I'm like in here at various active in sports and in coaching now nationally. And any tournament that I'm involved in at the national level or international level, they're all tobacco free. Okay. I've been involved in a couple international events, coaching, and they're all tobacco free. Okay, because tobacco just isn't big in Canada, it's big in the States. Okay? It's big in Europe and some places as well. Okay. They're giving me the time thing, I'm going to keep going. Okay? No, I don't. But I appreciate you guys letting me talk. If you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm working at Nipwin. The biggest thing, guys, is make decisions. You know, we can sit up here and we can tell you what not to do, okay? But I always say, if you make a big boy decision, a big boy decision has big boy consequences, okay? All right? That's anything in life. I pick a champion on my field. That's what I tell my 4-year-old knows that. Okay, when I agree, I pick a champion on my field. So the field is left, right? I pick a champion on. Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
I take it we need to close right now. Yes? Yes?
Our grade 6s need to go.
Okay, so what I will do is I will just quickly do the last few minutes of closure here. Just want to emphasize to our grade 6s that today you have heard an awful lot about chewing tobacco. You have heard the very important message that even though it is smokeless, it is not harmless, and it is every bit as dangerous as smoking is. It is addictive. We know that there are stopping programs that help you to stop using. So at your age, what you might do is be a vessel or a person of information and help other people in your life who may be chewers know that there are programs that are available within Kelsey Trail Health Region. And you also have heard about the laws associated with tobacco or smokeless tobacco. I think last but not least, you have heard the personal story of somebody who is smart, talented, physically active in his life, and he became a slave of the product for a period of time. His journey up and out took a lot of strength and connection with the people he loves. So these are important messages. I want to thank your school, your teachers, your principals for helping us to come into your school prior to this event. And I want you to help me thank this panel of guests who are giving up this week, but this day of their life work-wise to come and share this moment.
If there are questions from the grade 7s, if they're allowed to stay, we will take a few of those. I want to give this to your teachers. We have an evaluation online for this program. I'm going to give you the link. Please invite your students to participate in this anonymous, confidential survey that will help us to do a better job in the future and to know whether we were effective in giving the information that was valuable. Thank you so much.
Biggest thing is what I do is I don't sit and preach at this. Hey, it's a life decision. You make a decision yourself, right? Because it's like anything. If your parents tell you not to do something, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I know better than that. You're going to do something similar to it, right? You know, if your mom and dad say, hey, there's 6 cookies in there. Don't eat that 6 cookies. Exactly. There's going to be 5, right? You're going to have 1. Okay. That's the biggest thing. What I don't want to do is I don't want to say, hey, make good decisions. But I don't want to throw stuff at you and say, don't do it. You know? I want you to make a decision not to do it.
What's more popular, like chew or smoking?
I think it depends on the age group and the activity that's going on, and whether male or female as well. There's sort of the idea that the more activities, especially children, probably may or may not have seen ads, you know, with the little circle in the back of the jeans, you know, or activities and stuff. So if it encourages kids to do what their peers are doing, or other people in their families or their friends or whatever. So oftentimes that's the trigger, isn't it? And when you see somebody who wants to, you have to do that. This one that likes to do it. Girls are not, they don't really usually find you very, it's an antisocial type of thing. So they tend to smoke more. There's a huge incidence of girls taking up smoking at an early age.
They think for weight, yeah. They
Yeah,
think for granted.
unfortunately, just as antisocial, because if you ever talk to somebody who's doing cigarettes, it's not that.
The study I looked at from May, it was just released in May of just 2 weeks ago in the States, the year 2000 to the year 2011, looking at teenagers, and they looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of teenagers. So it wasn't just a small study that looked at 100. I think the incidence of smoking in that population was 5.1, 5.2%, and 5.4%. And that was using smokeless tobacco. So I have no reason to think that Canada would be any different. But I agree that the smoking rates will be higher than that. The smoking rate in Saskatchewan is around 23%. But that includes all ages. It's not just teens. I think the teens are in around that. Teen girls are higher. They want for weight.
I've got an interesting thing to add to that too. Our provincial mental health educators did a study a number of years ago on smokeless tobacco, because we've been proponents of this sort of education for many years now, obviously because of the month link and the rest of the health and body link. But we did a survey of all the schools all around the province, and the grade 9s, it was a pre-test presentation and a post-test, and this study was actually published, and the addiction rate, self-reported addiction rate in grade 9 was 14%. Grade 9 children, and it wasn't broken that well. I'm sure it was broken out against females, but that was the general thing. So that's quite amazing when you think of it, that 14, perhaps 14, even 10% of your grade 9 say in any high school or anywhere would be using smokeless tobacco. It's quite a scary thought. And we have said things don't have health problems later on. And we never think about later on. We always just think about what's in the moment.
I have a question. Has tobacco changed over the years? Like, is there a potency increase of the tobacco or additives that have changed over time, say from the 50s to 60s, 70s, and onward?
There are more additives, more addictive type properties.
Do they add more nicotine into it or something to make it more, like, has that changed over time?
So they added other substances that are addictive. Now, I don't know for sure if they've actually increased the nicotine, but they have increased other substances so that the product is more addictive.
And there are substances such as formaldehyde and battery acid and all kinds of things that are actually added into the tobacco. But we have lists of what's in it. You know, maybe you're interested. Because it's quite staggering. Really quite staggering what's added into the tobacco.
Any other questions?
What would happen if you had like two in your lips and you were smoking at the same time?
Double trouble, I would say. No. Plus, you wouldn't know whether you suck in the smoke or swallow down the juice, right? I mean, it wouldn't be wise, and it would be extremely expensive as well. It might be quite embarrassing, actually. You might cough and choke and spit it all over your friend. So think about it, right? They're socially undesirable circumstances.
Do you think cigarettes are worse or tobacco chews?
Worse for what? Worse for what?
Which one first? Diseases. Overall.
One's not better than the other.
Different disease.
So I think what is being said, yes, I think what is being said is that both chew and smokeless and no tobacco are equally dangerous. Okay. Which gentleman had his hand up first? I think the guy in the red. Okay.
What does the package look like? Like, is it
Like, is it in like a little plastic container, or is it like?
Like a can of chew,
Yeah.
just black,
But is it inside
black
like-
fine grain for the cocaine. Other stuff is like black.
This is a stole, and it's the same sort of stuff. And you pick it up, it sort of sticks together.
Yeah.
It's moist.
It's kind of like,
It
Looks like dirt.
It looks like dirt, yeah.
Oh, so,
And this
Coffee
is cherry
grounds.
flavor.
and that apparently,
I've never done this before. Got it,
You look
sorry.
good, you look good.
How am I looking? And you lift your lip back and you tuck it down in there.
Yeah.
And then it mixes with your saliva, and then you get the hit from it.
also it's not like.
And it says also on it, this product is not a safe alternative to cigarettes. So it tells you on all of these. This causes mouth diseases. This one has a different message. The use of this product can cause cancer.
So, sir, do you have do you want to add more to your question or comment? Okay, thank you.
So which one is harder to chewing or smoking?
Which one is harder to quit? Your question?
Mr. Schroeder.
I don't know, I didn't smoke. I can't stand to smell smoke. I can't stand being around smokers. I've honestly never, I don't know, chewing tobacco is not easy to quit, but I have many, many friends, so I have a pretty large circle of friends, and lots of them still chew tobacco daily or hourly or whatever. Fortunately, I have one friend that quit chewing tobacco and smoking. Yeah, you know, and it's gone, right? Because he's like, okay, I don't want to get lung cancer, but I was gonna smoke. You know, and that's you know, and that, like I said, guys, I'm not here in my other role right now, where Body's looking after that. I'm just here as giving you an idea of what I think about this.
They're equally as hard to quit. The withdrawal symptoms are the same because your pleasure center in your brain is still wanting that.
Thank you for your question. I think that the other gentleman right here in the front.
My dad, he quit smoking like 2 years ago.
Your dad did?
Yeah, he stopped.
Is flavored tobacco worse for you than non-flavored?
they're all bad. It just,
Artificial flavor.
it's, all it is, the flavor in there is just to get you hooked on it, because it tastes terrible. And honestly, if it doesn't have flavor, it tastes terrible.
It's just like pop or something. You go, I like that one better than another. You like cherry or peach or this or that or blueberry, you know. It's all the same, it has the same content, they just shove something different in there.
Thank you for your question. Young man in the front, I mean in the yellow shirt.
If you took apart a cigarette, would the tobacco inside do the same as the
No.
chewing tobacco?
Try it.
See, this stuff is the tobacco leaves. This is the raw tobacco leaves. See, this is in the red man pouch here, the stuff that you put down in your cheek,
Just
right?
chew it.
You chew it, yeah, just chew it, imagine. And it's
Really
just
gum
really,
chew.
really rough and chewy. And this stuff in here is this stuff finely ground up. Finely ground up, so, and it's, you can take it as a pinch. You really couldn't put a pinch of this down in here, you know. Right, I suppose you could, but this is how it looks in its raw form.
And I think you were asking if it's different than what's in a cigarette, and you know how the cigarette, if you've ever seen a cigarette, you know what the tobacco with that looks like. So it looks very different. Thank you.
You're right, Betty.
Let's go over to the young man with the warning sign on his shirt.
Like,
Can you speak louder, sir?
you know there's like laws against, like minors can't buy tobacco products. How come it's still so, like, they can still have to get it? Like,
As well. How do you use it?
You're pretty good guy about myself. Honestly, yeah, you know, it's like anything, it's many presentations for alcohol and drugs for you, right? Alcohol is legal for you guys to buy too, but, you know, in grade 9 and 10, they start thinking what parties are still getting. There's always a will, there's always a will to the way, right? you know what though, it is honestly tougher now to purchase. In the city, I know that for a fact it is here, because, you know, I didn't do that long ago, nothing that long, so I would get asked for my opinion.
That was a very good question, thank you, sir. It is 5 minutes until we are going to be done for the day, for the morning. So we will take 2 more questions, which will be this young man here and the girl in the gray wedding hat over there. So we'll start with you.
Okay, is turkey cheer like the same as cheer?
That's safer. Turkey, safer.
Thank you.
Good question.
Was it awkward going into the store and buying all that tobacco?
For me, is it awkward? For me to do that? That was funny, you should ask, it was so weird, because I'm standing here like, okay, I want some of this, and, I mean, people who know about the story knew me, that I would touch the stuff, and it was just ridiculous, it was so funny, it was, people coming behind me, tobacco, she's fine. Well, I would never thought she used, it was probably all kinds
And
of
it probably
stories
cost
out
her
there.
$150 to buy all of it.
This stuff was $89 when I bought it. Can you imagine? $18. You can buy a really good pair of underwear. But can I finish your whole story?
Yes, and as we close for the day, grade 7, Celia is going to tell us one last story, and then we will.
We talked earlier on about the gentleman who came who was a survivor of oral cancer. But there are also lots of other people out there. There's an athlete who died many years ago, I think in the 80s, called Sean Marcy, and his story is available online. And he started using, he was 12, and he died, I believe he was 18, so he did die, because he had oral cancer, and even though he had many surgeries, he could not save his life. However, how many of you have parents? Aunts and uncles. I know sometimes you kind of call out your parents, right? And things don't go very well in teenagers. I don't know how it goes now. But I just want to tell you a little story about tobacco and how it can work in a family sometimes. Out of 9 kids, 6 went into the Army, into the Navy, Army, Air Force. And 3 were still in high school. And during the time in the forces, the adults, the 6 older people were all given as a daily ration cigarettes. Helped them with their nerves and whatever, it was supposed to calm them down, as I said. It hits the dopamine center in the brain, and it makes you feel better. And they were given cigarettes every day, rations. So, as we talked about earlier on, it's not difficult to get addicted to nicotine, is it? Usually a couple of times, and away you go. Your brain likes it, and you think, I love it. Kyle said it's really difficult to quit it. So, as these people, the older ones, went through the war, came through the war, etc., still smoking, still using tobacco. One of them quit, but his wife used tobacco every day, chain smoked, lit one cigarette off the other one. That when she was sleeping, she didn't do that. And one by one, they developed cancers, but nobody really connected the dots. And one of the women got oropharyngeal cancer in her throat. And the next one, and she lived with that for a while, and then she died. Meanwhile, one of the other brothers was having trouble with his heart. Well, he didn't know it was his heart. He was short of breath, etc. Went in and had some tests. He had a tumor on his heart. He lasted probably 3 or 4 months after diagnosis. They're all still smoking. Gradually, one of the aunts developed problems in his stomach, cancer. She didn't last. Then the next brother was having troubles breathing, he had pains and spasms, and they'd say, oh, we've got arthritis, it's an old war wound, go home, you're fine. And he'd have terrible spasms in his chest and in his back, etc. Discovered that he had a large mass, still smoking, a large mass, and he subsequently died 6 weeks later. And then the last one of the 6 passed away about 6 months after that. The 3 who never did go to war, they never started smoking, they're still alive to this day, they're in their 80s, healthy, happy, perfectly fine. And the other 6, of course, are no longer with us. And they started leaving the planet when they were in their early 60s, which may seem like a huge age to you, but when you think of the life expectancy of a woman is around 80 to 85 years of age, that's way too young. 20-some years their lives were cut off because of the habit of using tobacco. Using tobacco. It's quite amazing to think that that could happen. That's one family. One family out of 9 siblings, 6 are gone because of tobacco. Do you think in those days there was any information about it? No, there was no information. So that's why we're here to try and help you, as Kyle said, make choices, make good choices for yourselves. Think on what we talked about today, and remember that we can't tell the future. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can certainly shape the future by the decisions that we make. And I want to tell you something else about that particular family. That family was my family. It was my aunts and uncles, and my dad who died of cancer. So I had lost my dad when he was 67. Aunts and uncles were all in that age range, 60 to 70. I have three aunts and uncles in that family left. And as I said, they're all healthy and in their 80s or 78 to 84 or something like that. So we don't know. We can't tell, can we, what we have in our family genes. And the only way that we don't want to find out is to make sure we start using tobacco. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much to the panel. It's been informative, and we appreciate all the information.